Hey, wordsmiths, welcome to Prompted. Today we're going to talk about stories and storytelling. Whether you are just starting out for a writing career, it's just a hobby, or you're a seasoned vet, your inspiration has to come from somewhere. And it doesn't matter where. Maybe it's your life, maybe it's somebody else's life, or maybe it's mythology, or whatever it is. Nature's a good inspiration for some things, but inspiration has to come from somewhere. And here we're going to talk about using prompts. You can find writing prompts anywhere on the internet. There are prompt generators, there's advice on how to create a prompt. I might do a video on that later, we'll have to see. Or there are also books that have several writing prompts available that anybody can use. I was shopping one day and I went to the stationery section and I happened upon a book that's 300 writing prompts. So I read through it. There were some really good ones that worked for me. Not all of them will work for me at this moment. Maybe later, maybe later. So So I have this book and I'm going to be going through it and seeing what I can produce from it. And these can be used for anything, whether it's a blog, poems, songs, novels, short stories, contest entries. We'll get into some of those ones later. But they're really, really great for bringing on a spark, just even if it's small, because you can always build on it later. And where I came across actually using prompts, because I've seen them before, you see them in school for essay writing or whatever. I never really thought to use them for actual stories myself because I just didn't know where it would work for me. But I decided to enter a writing contest. I had to work on a new career path, like many people recently. Employment and income have severely dropped. So I had to come up with a new path and new income. So started with writing contests. I've been writing for a while, but very little confidence in putting my work out there, you know. And a lot of writers go through this. A lot of people in many industries, pretty much in all industries, have a fear of rejection. So you don't go for that job because you don't think that you have the skill or you're ready for it, or you don't go for the promotion because you don't think you're ready for it, or you have a creative outlet, artwork, writing, um photography, modeling, whatever it is, you don't have that confidence, so you don't go after it. You always dream about it, but you don't go after it because you have that fear of rejection. Because we're told that we have to be a certain way in order to succeed in certain industries. It's sad that we are in that position because there are a lot of people who are just not naturally confident in themselves, in their abilities. I'm one of those people. When I'm talking to people that I know about different subjects, I can be very boisterous. I would totally just go off and this and that, or you know I want to I'm going to go write a book and be successful, or I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm going to be so successful. And I've been studying up on how other people say that they can be successful and watching YouTube videos and working out tips. But I was always afraid to try because I was afraid of the rejection. And then I did put videos out before and it wasn't going anywhere. I recently, on this channel, before I did this little revamp on my YouTube channel, I put out two videos of, well, one video was a book review, and it was up for 2 years. And after the first 3 months, the views halted. I wasn't getting any more views. I couldn't get monetized, and it really felt like a failure. And one of the biggest problems is, I think, I haven't found that niche. I hope this is the niche because I'm running out of ideas on how to make this work. Because like many people, I don't do well working for other people, and I hate the fact that if I have a regular schedule, I have to be up during the times when I'm not naturally awake and alert, and I can't be available to help the people that I want to help, like my family. I have a couple of sisters who have kids and they're single, so they need the help because they're trying to survive too, and I feel like I have to be that person. It's just what I do. So video making has been something that I've been trying to get out there. Writing is something I've been trying to get out there because I love doing it, and I think it would be great to have a job that you love. So I entered a writing contest. They had a prompt. It's actually a weekly one, and I'll do a whole video on writing contests that I have found that are reasonable, and these are free to enter. But I entered this contest and it had a prompt, and when I read it, a story just clicked in my head, and a story just flowed out, so I was able to just get it down. It was great. I didn't win the contest, but that was a first step to getting out there. It was a small contest, very small prize, but it was a stepping stone. And prompts are kind of that stepping stone in writing. It gives you just a little something, a little spark of inspiration, and you can take it anywhere. When writing, whether you're using a prompt or it's already a story idea that you have, you should ask yourself certain questions before you start writing. Because you don't want to start a project, work really hard on it, and it not work. I'm not saying that you can't start a project and have to set it aside and come back to it later. You just don't want to spend time on something that you aren't feeling. So, I've got a few questions that I ask myself before I start writing on a prompt. Well, sometimes after, because I had a spark of inspiration. But one of the questions is, how can this turn into a story? So, when I entered the contest, I had a prompt of using a little black book as an object in the story in some way. whether it drive the story or it um, is just a little mentioned object. So I just wrote down my story. It wasn't enough words for the contest. Contests will have rules and stuff, and a lot of them have word counts that they expect to have. So I didn't have enough words. And I had to evolve the story. At that point, it was just an idea, it wasn't a story. Next question is, how can it fit in with a character? So in the prompt that I wrote, or that I had for this contest, was about a little black book. How does this little black book fit with a character or with a situation? So, and then what are the options? If you're entering a contest, it's probably going to be a short story or a poem. So, your options would be what to write this short story, but you have to look at the rules. If you are not writing a contest and you're just using a prompt for writing your own short stories or your own novels, you have to know where you can take this prompt and how long it can be, and that'll help you determine your options. Is it going to be a true story? Is it going to be facts? Or is it going to be fiction? Something fantastical or science fiction or a mystery or a horror or just a drama, a love story? What is it? Where do you want it to go? What inspires the story? A prompt, like I said before, is that stepping stone. Where what else is pushing the story into fruition, into its own little world? Can you apply your own personal life experiences to it? You know you better than you know anybody else. So is there anything that you can pull from your life to give this story a well-rounded depth? How does the story begin? Now, in some writing prompts, it'll say start your story with this sentence or start it out in this setting. But if you don't have that, you have to determine how are you going to draw your reader in that first paragraph? How are you going to get them to keep reading? And then I know some people say don't plan your ending, but I think you should at least loosely plan your ending. Because if you don't know where your story is going, the the journey can get lost or muddled. So if you have that end point, I was watching an interview with the writers of one of my favorite shows, and they said they always had an end game. They always had an end point because they didn't want their show to keep going and going and going and repeating stuff and get old and stale and have it be canceled because the ratings went down. They wanted their show to go out on a high. They wanted, I don't know, I guess my opinion, I think they kind of wanted that their custom or their, not their customers, their watchers, their fans to beg for it back. You know, they want more of the story. They want to know what happened. You know, they actually interacted with the fans a lot more than most, and they could see how much us as fans, because there's Facebook groups about it too, how much their fans loved it and how engaged they were. And as a book writer or a story writer, that's what you want. You want them wanting more. That's how Stephanie Myers, when she wrote the Twilight series, people kept coming back. I certainly did. I had to have all the books and I wanted to read them all in one sitting. You can't do that, by the way. It takes way too long. But I didn't want to put the books down because it drew me in. Each section, like at the end of the first book, it there was questions. What's going to happen? Is this going to work? Are they going to, get in trouble for having Bella around? Or you have J.K. Rowling and her Harry Potter series. Big cult following on that one. Big. I'm kind of part of that too. I love Harry Potter. The way she told the story and the conflicts and everything, it just keeps bringing people back. And they have movies. They have a Do they have a musical? I think they have a Harry Potter musical. Thought I read that somewhere. But they have movies, and then there was a movie based on a book from the book. Actually, a couple of them. And then they continue it. They keep continuing the story because people like it so much. And that's what you want. If this is going to be your career, that's what you want to do. You want to bring people in and you want them coming back for more. So, use every bit of inspiration you can. Prompts are a great one for that. Um but yeah, you want to have your end game. You want to know where the story is going so that your events and your journey adds up to that ending. What is the conflict or challenge in this story? Every story needs something. You can't have a flat story. You have to have something that has to be worked towards or overcome or anything like that. So, you want to define that before you start writing. Seriously writing. What's going on in this story? Who or what propels the story? So, you have to have something. Like Harry Potter, as we mentioned before, Voldemort really propelled that story because he was always there. Everybody was always worried he was coming back. And he's the one who propelled the story more than even Harry. So you have to have something to push that story along. And it has to be a constant. I think you have to have that one constant propellant in your story. So so there's that. So our first prompt is going to be, what is your favorite way to spend a lazy day? Well, first thoughts for me are me. How would I spend my day? Sleeping as long as I want to. Writing, kind of meandering around, just being lazy. Don't plan anything. There's no plan. There's no, you have to get this done by the end of the day. It's just you doing whatever you want to do. If you want to go shopping, you can. That's what you want to do for this day by yourself. Now, what if it was a fiction? I mean, you could write about somebody else's lazy day. You can take the story in many ways. You can start out with somebody that you know, make somebody up. You can use a leader. Let's say you have a president of the United States or anywhere, a president. They're in the public eye, they have a job, but the one thing we don't always see is What do they do on a lazy day? What does the president do when he goes to Camp David? We don't know that. You could take this prompt and say what he would do. Or she, if we ever get a female president legally. So, what would they do? What would they do on a lazy day? I mean, you can take it in so many different ways. What does a king do when there's no meetings and no state business to take care of? Everything's quiet, no wars, no nothing. What does the king do? So, this is a prompt that can be taken in many, many different directions. And when you're writing it, you know, if you maybe need a little bit more inspiration, maybe you have too many ideas. Well, write your ideas down and pick the one that you feel that you can write a longer story or put more detail into. When I entered a writing contest, as I mentioned before, I got the prompt, I had an idea, and I just wrote down the idea. One of the things that helped me more to push the story along and not to get it lost, like if I had to put it down or something for whatever reason, I used parentheses around character names and objects and events and places that I wasn't 100% sure of. It made it a lot easier to go back and edit. So, and no, I didn't win the contest, but I had a really, really good story that I was proud to present to somebody else. I love the story that I wrote for it. So, yeah, prompts can get you that stepping stone into a story. And you just never know where it's going to go. Don't discount, don't be like me and just discount something that's like, oh, that's for writing essays. No. These prompts really do help with that creative juices. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it inspired you with whatever it is that you want to do. And I would love to hear your stories. If you have any ideas with this prompt or any thoughts, just please share them down below in the comment section. I will definitely be reading and I'll try and comment on the ones on as many as I can. Please like and subscribe and I'll see you next time, wordsmiths.